Hey guys, Preston here. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be previewing the Notre Dame South Florida game that happens this Saturday at 2:30 on the USA Network. Yes, we're on the USA Network. It might be the first football game I've ever heard of on the USA Network. I think we got bumped off NBC due to golf or something. I am not sure why they didn't put us on NBCSN, but hey, who knows? So if you don't have the USA Network, I'm sorry. Luckily I do, so I'm still good to go. Quickly, just with the betting lines, Notre Dame is currently a whopping 25.5 point favorite, and the over/under is set at 50.5 points. We'll be getting to that a little bit later. So I got this structured the way I kind of want to now. So I'm gonna start each of these videos by doing key players for each team. I'm gonna do Notre Dame, and then obviously whatever opponent we have, kind of what you can get to know some of the roster of the other team if you're not a Notre Dame fan, and if you are a Notre Dame fan and you don't know the other teams, you're welcome to choose from the other team. And if you're from the other team, then hopefully I'll let you get a little bit about this Notre Dame roster. Then I got some keynotes, some matchups to look at, some stuff I think will play a factor. And then we kind of end it with my predictions. So let's do it. Key players to watch on Notre Dame sides Saturday. There'll be a lot of people to watch, honestly, if we're being honest. I would expect there to be some younger guys, some backups getting reps today if all goes according to plan. But these are just some guys I had wanted to focus on. Ian Book, obviously, is a guy who needs to be the primary focus. He struggled a little bit out of the gates, going 19 for 31, 263 yards, 61.3 completion percentage for 136.7 passer rating, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. His run game did not get going at all last week, going 12 yards on 9 different rushes. Granted, some of those were probably, sacks and whatnot. But, yeah, so he can clean it up a little bit. The receiving game in general, the passing game was not really existing against that Duke team. We game planned to run the ball, but also we have all new receivers. None of them have really gotten a start yet with Notre Dame. And Duke has some pretty solid cornerbacks. So I would expect the passing game to really increase today. This is Saturday. This is a USF team that obviously shouldn't have as stout of a defense as an ACC opponent. And you pair that with the fact that the guys at least got a week together playing. So I'd expect Ian Book to have a big game today for as long as they keep him in. Look for them to hopefully they're going to try to emphasize to get the passing game going so they can get it to pick up and catch up with the running game in time for some of the bigger games down the stretch. Speaking of the running game, Kyren Williams is someone to keep an eye on again, depending on how long he's going to play today. Like I said, with some of these games like this, it depends on how quick the score gets crazy, if it gets crazy at all, and if you see some of the other guys behind them. I'm sure they'll get a little bit of a rotation going because they like to do that. Why run a guy into the ground when you don't have to? But Kyren Williams last week had 19 attempts for 112 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. That was averaging almost 6 yards per carry at 5.9. That was impressive. He had a little slow off the gate, wasn't finding the holes, or the holes weren't there. But kind of right after that first quarter, they really got it going, and he started running all over that Duke defense. And you pair that with the fact he also had 93 receiving yards, and I believe it was only like 2 catches. He's very capable of explosive plays. He's a very solid player. You get him in the open field, and he's hard to deal with. And this is a USF defense that is more based on speed than physicality. So the speed will be there. It'll be interesting to see how he handles it and what he does. We'll have to see how it goes. USF did just play a triple option team basically last week, so they dealt with a lot of the run game, and they haven't really dealt with the pass game, and also had looked for the pass game to be more emphasized maybe. But even then, he had 93 yards receiving last week was our leading receiver. Another impact player for Notre Dame is Braden Lenzy. He has no stats recorded for this year yet, as he missed the game 1 with a hamstring issue. He is good to go today. When I say today, just know I mean for the game. He's good to go Saturday, and he's actually listed as the number 1 receiver, as a starting receiver this time. He's not behind anyone, probably due to the chronic injury. But look for Lenzy to make an impact early and often. He has very good speed, and he's going against a group of 5 corners who usually just lack in some areas, probably size for the most part. So Lenzy's probably look for him to shake off his rust and get it going today. Like I said, I think the receiving room in general should have a good day, especially compared to what they did last week, which is relatively disappointing. Now we're going to switch over to the defense with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah as the main guy to watch. I mean, he had 9 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble last week. That's great against a Duke team that's definitely better than this USF team, if we're being honest. USF does have some big guys on their offensive line, but they're still, Notre Dame should definitely win the battle of the trenches. And so Owusu, when he's blitzing, should be able to get the guys, and then he should still be able to dominate that middle of the field, cover some of the USF wide receiver room that also sort of struggled in week 1, didn't really put up any stats. Their leading receiver at 38 yards. And so against a Citadel defense, so hopefully we can hold them even more. Kyle Hamilton is another big name. It's right now I believe they said he's going to play, but it's kind of questionable how long he's going to play. He hurt his ankle week 1. Luckily it wasn't super serious. But the reality is Notre Dame probably views this as a game they can win without Kyle Hamilton. I'd probably agree if all things go to plan, you wouldn't need Kyle Hamilton to bail you out at any point. But if he wants to get back into the swing of things, he had 7 tackles in the pass defended last week in his first game in a year. So I'd look for him. Obviously, he'd be a huge impact. And if he can't go, you'd look for some of the backup safeties to start getting some more reps today. DJ Brown, I believe, is the backup right behind him, but you could see guys like Houston Griffin and Isaiah Pryor thrown in there too throughout the game because, like I said, you might get some more depth guys getting reps today, Saturday, against this USF team. Another guy I want to talk about this time on the defensive front is not even a starter, but he made such an impact last week, you have to say his name, and that's Isaiah Foskey, the beast who had a sack, a pass defense, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hurries last week. That's just, in his rotational role, that's amazing. He flashed every time I saw him on the field. I noticed him all right away. Number 7, so watch for him Saturday. Watch for him Saturday. He'll definitely make an impact more than likely. It'll be interesting to see how much he plays. Obviously, Ade Ogundiji and Dalen Hayes are the starters, but they had a healthy rotation going last week where they had all 11 different guys end up taking snaps at the defensive line. So I'd imagine it'd be something similar, if not even more extreme Saturday against this USF team. So yeah, look out for Ade Hayes, but Foskey's the one I wanted to highlight. But really that entire D-line. This defense is very, very good. To me, they're at least top 15 in the country, and I think they should really build up that. Kicking-wise, they should be just fine. Jonathan Dorr is their place kicker. He made every extra point, 3 for 3, and 2 field goals. Didn't miss a single kick, and his long was 48. I'm confident in Dorr's foot. He did very well in his first year starting last season, and he looks like he's going to continue that trend this season, luckily. For South Florida, they have a new sorry. Not feeling too great. They have a new coaching staff led by Jeff Scott, former Clemson offensive coordinator. So we don't have a lot of game tape on what this offense looks like. Obviously, they did have a game week 1, but it was against an option team, so their defense will probably look a little different against us. We'll have to see. Their offensive coordinator is a fun story for us, Charlie Weiss Jr. Obviously, the son of former Notre Dame coach Charlie Weiss gets to return to South Bend to coach against the team that he grew up with. It's fun to see him. He's had a pretty successful offense coordinator career. His last stop was in Florida Atlantic, who had a pretty solid offense in the CUSA. And defensive coordinator is Glenn Spencer. I believe he also came over from Florida Atlantic. He's a decent guy. I believe they're going to run a 3-3-5 style defense from what Brian Kelly was saying in his press conference. That's what he ran at his last job. We'll have to see. But highlighting the South Florida guys, they're going to have a quarterback rotation almost guaranteed. Jordan McLeod took most of the snaps for him last week at quarterback, going 11 for 16 for 68 yards, a touchdown, and no picks. So pretty accurate, 68.8% completion percentage, but the 68 yards makes you think it's a lot of dink and dunks. Got to question his arm strength a little bit. The other quarterback that got snaps last week was Noah Johnson, an Alcorn State transfer quarterback. He was pretty much used primarily only as a rushing threat, and he had 7 attempts for 49 yards and a touchdown. That's something to keep an eye on. This USF team, from what they've shown so far, appears to be a run-first team, and they have a stable of capable running backs and quarterbacks who can run the ball. Cade Fonten is a North Carolina quarterback transfer who did not see the field last week. They did not really confirm why, if it was injury, academic issues, team discipline, no one knows, but he might get some reps against this Notre Dame too. I would assume he's probably the better passer of the 3 quarterbacks. But these two are definitely mobile, so Notre Dame defense will have to watch out for mobile quarterbacks throughout the game. Running back wise, I mentioned three of them, with Johnny Ford and Kelly Joyner both getting they pretty much shared those attempts this week. Johnny Ford had 9 attempts for 71 yards, averaging 7.9 yards per carry, and Kelly Joyner had 8 attempts for 87 yards, a touchdown, and averaged 10.9 yards per carry. So they really ran all over that Citadel defense. Obviously, ours is better, but they have decent running backs, good speed there, workhorse guys, and they have a lot of them too. Like I said, they spread their snaps out. There's some other running backs that got snaps too. Darren Felix is a running back I want to mention. He's a transfer from Oregon, so look for him maybe to get it going a little bit. He took like 2 carries last week, but we'll see what they kind of do. Like I said, they're capable of rotating through running backs, which is going to be something to keep an eye on because they could have fresh backs throughout the entire game, and that makes it tougher on a defense. Speaking of defense, their defense, the main guy you want to highlight is Antonio Greer, I believe he's the middle linebacker. He led their team last week with 10 tackles. He also had a sack and a forced fumble. So that's kind of a beast performance right there. That's a Owusu Cormella-like performance for Greer. Granted, he played against a Citadel. He's a good backer though. He's quick and he'll be around the ball a lot. It'll just be up to our offense to shrug him off, find ways to get away from him, etc. Mekhi LaPointe is a free safety. He was actually listed as the depth chart as the backup, but he had a turnover last week with 4 tackles and a pick. So I don't know if they rotate him, how it works. I just know he had an interception, so I thought it was worth highlighting him and see how he does against us this week. Thad Magnum, I don't know. He's a defensive tackle transferred from Wolford. He made an impact immediately for his new team, getting 9 tackles, including a tackle for loss. Good stats there. He has a tough ask ahead of him going against this Notre Dame offensive line, who just had, I think, 3 of our offensive linemen were named Pro Football Focus Players of the Week last week. Keeping the offensive line tradition going, O-line U. Yeah. And kicking-wise for them, they had Spencer Schrader, who missed an extra point and a field goal. 3 for 4 and extra point, 0 for 1 on field goals. So that's something to keep an eye on. Their kicking game may not be that good. Something we can take advantage of and hold them to even less points than usual. The key notes I want to talk about is, like I said, USF played a triple option team last week, so they didn't really deal with any passing attack yet. That gives us a bit of an advantage. We're going to be even rusty on that in that spot where we should have an advantage anyways due to our athletes and profile recruits that we land. USF and Notre Dame's receivers did struggle in week 1, but like I said, Notre Dame, this is their prime opportunity to get these wide receivers going, and having Braden Lenzy back should be big for us. We should definitely win in the trenches and be expected to with our elite offensive line and a very good, deep defensive line who could rotate and stay fresh. I expect us to win the line on both sides of the ball. USF did force 3 turnovers game 1. That's something to keep an eye on. Notre Dame needs to emphasize ball security this week, and hopefully Ian Book throws no bad picks like he did last week. Already said the USF will have a quarterback rotation. ND needs to focus on the run attack from USF. They definitely appear so far to be a run-first team, having multiple running backs and quarterbacks who are capable of running the football. That's something we'll have to shut down early enough to maybe have a spy. I mentioned USF has a pretty big O-line for a group of 5 team, including right tackle Jarrett Hopel, who is 6'7", 320 pounds. So it's going to be a tough matchup for whoever has to get past him, but I believe we can probably still get it done. Last 2 little things, like I said, USF will have speed. That's something they've recruited pretty well from that Florida region, and the fact that they don't always land the size guys, but they'll get the speed guys. So like most group of 5 teams, Notre Dame should definitely have a physical advantage this game, and I look for them to take advantage of it. 25.5 points is the spread. Like I said, they'll probably cover that. I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna say we win pretty big, get the offense actually going, get a spark. I say we win 35-10 or 38-10, something along those lines. I think we should dominate this game. I think we almost need to dominate this game to really get it going for us. Started a bit slow week 1, which is, I guess, it's not crazy. A lot of teams did, but if we really need to get it going, this USF team provides a prime opportunity for us to really jumpstart this offense and keep this defense sharp and focused. Look for depth guys to get some reps today. Maybe we'll get to see Brandon Clark and freshman Drew Pine in at quarterback. Be fun to see. Either way, let's hope for a Notre Dame win. Last time USF came to Notre Dame, it resulted in a loss. So it's a revenge game, boys. We lost in 2011. I remember that might have been my first Notre Dame shirt ever, was a Notre Dame versus USF shirt, and then of course they lost. Good times. That was Brian Kelly's second year as coach. So now it's time to get the revenge on USF. Make sure we even the series at 1-1. Can't afford to make mistakes like that. I expect Kelly will hopefully have this Notre Dame team ready, and I think they're definitely talented enough. And if they're not, we have real problems if they struggle against this USF team, especially if they lose. But I doubt that happens. I'm confident this team can get it done. I'm going to say 35-10. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your predictions below. Go ahead and comment them. If you have anything else you want to talk about with me, any players I forgot to mention, or key matchups, or what you think of South Florida or Notre Dame, go ahead and comment. Let me know. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and share this video with your friends. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. I've noticed most of the people watching my videos have not yet subscribed. This content I post, if you like these videos, I'm not going to stop. They're going to continue getting previews and breakdowns after the games for all the Notre Dame games and all the Steeler games if you're interested in those. All right, guys. Sorry, one last time. This is K-Man Preston signing out. Thank you for watching. Go Irish.